Hello everybody, and decided it's time to make another Guppy Pond video because a lot has changed. And I think it's been a month and a half since I did a video. Now that it was summer, everyone still had their outside tubs going, and I just had this little boring stock tank in my house. But now that everyone's had to bring their stuff in and take it all down, I still got my Guppy Pond in my house. So, if you haven't seen this Guppy Pond before, it is where I throw all my calls, guppies, from all my different lines, and they all just get the interbreed and intermix and everything here. So that's what's going on in this tank as far as the fish go. Same goes for the snails, the shrimp. I now have a different tank I use for my shrimp calls, but shrimp calls wasn't here for a long time, so there's still a bunch of shrimp, but not as many shrimp as there had been because I've been hitting on my guppy tanks with the levamisole. And this tank was, or the inside pond was hit particularly hard. I think the last time I did a video on this is when algae had gotten so bad I replanted it, I believe. Algae comes and goes, but it's doing alright. So you may be asking, what's that gurgling noise? That is the pump cavitating because the sponges are clogged up. Now we have 3 of these full-size sponges here on the intake of this filter here, this bucket filter I made. So all the water goes through the bucket, goes through the sponges, and through the pump, and then the pump pumps it up through the bucket. The bucket is full of lava rock, and those are impatiens that they haven't started flowering again after I trimmed them, but they're growing back, so that's nice. The algae is mostly under control. The moss last week was real bad, and even still with this whole pandemic thing going on, it is hard to get peroxide, but my wife was able to find me a couple bottles of it around here. Anyway, when you do find it, it's a limit of 2, so I can't just walk to the Dollar General no more and buy every bottle of hydrogen peroxide they have on the shelf like I used to do to combat algae, especially in here. But I'm more judicious with the peroxide, and so we still have some algae in there. But it's a lot, believe me, you can tell it's moss. So last week you couldn't even tell that was moss. So I'll show you what I do with algae in here. And I'm getting ready to do a water change here. And I gotta clean these sponges out. But as you can tell, I put in, it's probably a couple months ago maybe at this point, I put in like 5 or 6 stems of Alodowigia repens. And that's what I got now. It's got right underneath that bright light, and it's got that bright light, it just goes crazy. So it grows real happy. Starting to get, I got had another flare up of internal parasites. That's all taken care of now. I got fry going on in almost all my tanks. This thing, the Guppy Pond, well, I'm gonna be honest, I mean, I'm not trying to kill anything in here, but this is more of my experimentation with levamisole dosing and that kind of stuff. I always push the limits here, so the guppies don't mind it so much, but that's the reason why the shrimp population. So the shrimp that are left, they have been well adjusted to levamisole, and it doesn't really bother me much anymore. at that mermaid weed. That stuff is so cool when you grow it underneath the super bright light. Turns red. Look how fine its leaves you get. It looks like little needles. And that's pretty cool. Little shrimps on there at the surface. And there's also tons and tons of plecos in here. Bristlenose Plecos. Let's see. There's a little baby on the bucket filter. Right there. But what has happened here with this filter? If you look down, oh, I don't know if you can see it or not. The sponges are so clogged up that the water cannot fill up faster than the pump is pumping the water out. So then we get some air. And that's not good for the pump. And I have to do this. You remember, this pump on here is 1,000 gallons per hour, and I have 3 of them sponge filters as intakes. So and it's in a 110 gallon stock tank with who knows how many guppies and probably over 100 Bristlenose Plecos. So this thing is stocked. And there's, I don't know if I can really do it justice, but this is why I like having the Luigia growing up to the surface, because you get so many fry make it. I get so many fry in here now. It's insane. And they all like hiding in the Luigia at the surface, it seems like. There are lots of little fry in here. I think it's partly this thing, the guppy pond bounced back a lot quicker than my line tanks did because of my experimenting with levamisol and getting, sometimes this gets like double the dose. So the shrimp don't like it, but the guppies don't mind, and it seems to be good for the guppies. But besides that, I was going to show you what I do here. So, first thing we're going to do is a water change. Some pond maintenance. Alright, let's see what we got going on over here real quick. Okay, let's see if I can do this. My video's been pretty crappy lately. I'm trying to make a better quality video, and I'm not going to be able to do that from sitting where I'm sitting. So let's see what we can do. So what we got here, this is a Python hook with a 400 gallon per hour pump attached to it. This is how I change my water. So the Python hose gets hooked to there, obviously, I have quick connects on everything. And then this goes down in the water at the right level to get down to the water change I want to do. And then we gotta plug it in. Okay, so now you can see the pump is attached to the Python hose via the quick connect, and the pump is plugged in, and we come in here to where the Python's hooked up to the sink. I have a kid that needs to do his dishes, and you can even speed it up by, it'll suck and pump at the same time, and that'll make the water change go even faster. So what I'm going to do is wait for that first sponge to get to where it's completely up out of the water. So we're just waiting for the water to drain at this point. So that now all the water level is low. That means the pump is slowed down even more. So what this is meaning is those bottom sponges are probably pretty much 100% blocked. So, and that's what we're dealing with here. So we're gonna wait for this to get just a little bit, and the dumb shrimp like to hang on to it even when it's completely up out of the water. And then we lift it up. That one don't feel like it's too bad. I'll put it down in this bucket, and then you can see, well, that's working. Those sponges are completely clogged up right there. So then what I'm going to do is go rinse this sponge out, and then we'll be back. Okay, so now we got the water draining down here. And what we're going to want to do is wait for this to get drained down real low. We got this one clean sponge right here, and that means we got two dirty ones. So what we're going to have to do first, brush all the snails and the dumb shrimp that think they want to be on there. Just get sucked down to there. And so what we need to do, because we can't just leave. There's a little shrimpy right here. Alright, there's a little shrimp. Go free, little guy, go free. There you go. Okay. So, we don't want water going into that filter without first going through a sponge. So when we switch this, we got to do it real quick. So I'm going to take this one, pop it off as quick as I possibly can. Put it in the bucket. And just for now, that clean one will be a placeholder. And sometimes this happens. The coupler here come off, and all that does, and as you can see, that makes that snug so the top sponge won't try to float away. It holds it on there. That's all that little coupler deal is. So now, what we're going to do is clean this nasty sponge, then we'll be back. Okay, we got it as low down as the pump will pump it. So now, what we got to do now is unplug the pump. Let the water drain itself out. I still have the sink going, so it's sucking the line clean. Sucking it dry, I should say. Sucking the water that's in the hose out. And I got a little thing to put set up on over here. And now this is the other hook I have without. So this is the tricky part. As you can see, we've got it down to almost where one sponge will do it. So if you remember, this one is clean already. So what we're going to do is pop this clean one off. Set it here on the side. Pop Make sure we get all the stuff brushed off of it, the solids and the shrimp and the others. Pop this off, there's still some shrimp in it. And then we'll pop this one on there. And look at that, it's running already. Put this clean one on here. So now we've taken out all the shrimp that we're going to take out. And we're going to clean this bottom one out. Throw this in the dirty bucket. And we'll clean that out and we'll be back. And we're back with, now we got 3 clean sponges up on here. Push that down. Alright. Now, we start the filling process. We've already hooked up to the sink. But first, there's a few things we need to do before we start putting water in. Safe. That's filling up. Yeah, that's filling up. Safe. And on this, I have, I'm sure I'm putting way too much. This is how I do it. Got this little 1/8 of a teaspoon deal here. And we put in 3 little half scoops of that. Alright, so now we have made the tap water safe that we are about to put in. And now we're looking at adding some peroxide for algae control in the moss. So it's just your regular drugstore, Dollar General, whatever. I'm not sure where the old lady found it at. This one still has the seal on it. So we're going to pop this seal open. And I'm going to put some here in my little cup that I use. Now it's up to 1.5 milliliters per gallon. And this is a 110 gallon stock tank. And yes, I realize there's probably about 40 gallons in it right now. But then that means this is going to be super concentrated. Alright. We got about 100 in there so far. Like I said, in the pond, that's going to overdose a little bit. I just think it's going to work better. It's not going to hurt the guppies. The thing you have to really be careful with. But I usually end up putting about 180 in here, to be honest. And I sprinkle a little bit here on the sides, because the algae likes to grow on the sides. So there's that. Now, we're ready to start filling up. So the filling process has begun. See that's coming out of there. And the moss, when you hit it with peroxide like that, it wants to float. And even when your water change real low, it wants to float too. But let me get this thing off the tripod here first. So there, look at all the bubbles right there. The algae in the moss is oxidizing. And that's what the hydrogen peroxide does. Algae is a more simple life form than the moss. And so it is oxidizing away the algae and leaving the plants and the moss behind. And that great big wad of moss and algae is now going to be floating because it's covered in air bubbles, oxygen bubbles, from the peroxide doing its job. And as it fills up more and more, the flow gets better and better. And oh, it quit cavitating now. And it still did a tiny bit. But it's pretty much done cavitating now. And you're getting a full 1,000 gallons per hour coming out of that pump now. Okay, so we'll let it fill up and see what it looks like full with fresh water and clean sponges. Okay, so here it is in the process of filling up. It's getting there, and you can tell that is really flowing good. Let's see, all the guppies like, oh my god, it was real low and now it's filling back up. What do we do? And when you fill back up, the shrimp like to gather up here on this. They like to gather up on the wall as it's filling up. See if we can get a shot of them shrimp. I got a bunch of them great big black shrimp with the yellowish back stripe on it in here. They're just coal shrimp. Who knows how many generations. I've had shrimp in here for years, so who knows where they all come from. And as you can see, that moss, look at it, it's full of bubbles. You can sit there and see it fizzing. It's full of peroxide. And all that algae is getting oxidized. That ain't gonna knock it out for good, but it puts a hurting on it and keeps it from getting out of control. Because I'd let it get out. I cleaned it all up, got it looking real good, and let it go for about a month, and it started getting out of control again, the algae. So we're back to, was able to find some peroxide. I think I talked about that earlier. There's another one of them big black mama shrimp with the stripe on it. Let's see. That's as much as I can zoom in. Okay. I think of everyone in the house, my wife enjoys this because I'm sitting in her seat right now. This is my wife's seat in the house, and this is where she always sits, and she's always sitting here looking in here, and this is her view of it. So I'm gonna have a whole bunch of Ludwigia here in a week or so to get rid of. Literally half of a 110 gallon stock tank full of it. Start trimming it when it gets to the surface. That piece is at the surface. When all this gets to the surface, I'll start hacking it down. See what we got. I'm not sure what I want to do with the plant situation in here, but it is. And that'll be floating like that for at least a couple days. You can probably tonight, if I pushed it down, I'll probably hit it with peroxide one more time this weekend, and then we'll see where we're at. But that keeps it under control, and then having all this Ludwigia growing like crazy in here, and then the impatient flowers growing in the filter help a lot too. Hoping that thing will start flowering again. Seems like every time I cut it down and it grows back, it gets less flowers on it. So I'm not sure what's up with that, to be honest. But here it is. It's cold outside. We had our first freeze here this morning, and I got flowers in the house. Cool. That was always my goal, to have flowers in the house when it's cold outside. I'm silly like that. That moss is really floating. because it's loaded with peroxide and algae. You can even see the fizz bubbles at the water surface. It's just fizzing, eating up that algae, oxidizing it. So we're about full. Full is when it gets to that level, to the top sponge, because it can't be taller than the top sponge, because then the fishies will swim over the sponge and down that hole into the filter. So that would be no good. So here we are. It's full. So I'd like to thank you all for watching. Hopefully this was fun for you guys to watch. This is all DIY stuff. Everything in this pond is DIY. All DIY'd by myself. So I gotta get this water shut off. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.